Welcome to Confessions Beyond the Food. I'm your host, Nancy Ridlen. Let's dig in and get inspired. Hi, welcome back to Confessions Beyond the Food. My name is Nancy and I'm with W3. Today we have Dan Abel joining us. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're so glad to have you. So Dan is the Chief Chocolate Officer of two beloved St. Louis-based companies, Chocolate. How can you go wrong with that? And Bissinger's Handcrafted Chocolatier. So you're known as the Willy Wonka of the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have a really rich history. Do you mind just giving us a quick snapshot of that history? It's really cool.
Absolutely. So two brands have a really great history on both sides. Starting with Chocolate Company. My parents started it in 1981. My dad went to college out of state and kind of started working for a candy company in a warehouse picking and packing job where he picked and packed orders, similar to what like an Amazon picking and packing order would be today, but it was just all candy related products, and really kind of fell in love with the business. And so went from working in the warehouse to working in the candy kitchen to working in the production floor to working in the retail stores, and really learned the whole business and stayed up there for a few years. And then told them that he wanted to go back to St. Louis. He born and raised in St. Louis, and he was dating my mom at the time, long distance. And so she was in St. Louis. So they were, this was the 70s. And so late 70s, and there's no social media or, it was in Ohio to St. Louis was such a longer distance than it is today. So they were, encouraging to him to start out and said, we'll help you any way we can. In 1981, he opened up his first store, and it was him and my mom. He opened up in February. They got married in May of that year. And then they were the two employees, and it started with one little candy kitchen, a retail store, and two employees. And then really in 1998 was kind of the second retail store that opened. And then my brother, sister, and I all got involved in the business at different times, and we still are today. And so we really wanted to, as we got out of school, get in there and build a business. And my parents were really, honest with us. They said, the great part of, they're very excited about the family business, but also there's just not money in the business to just pay you your salary that you want without growth. So we were very motivated to go build the business. So, he was said, we're going to pay you the hourly rate. And if you want to go make more money than that, go get the business for it. And that was all I needed. So, we worked a lot of different channels, and the one that really kind of stuck after kind of trying everything was wholesale. We started with some local tourist accounts, and then went into small regional retailers, and then it kind of started some local trade shows to regional trade shows to national trade shows, and traveled all over the country and knocked on doors and got used to hearing the word no, got used to, hearing the word maybe, and then, 1 in 10 or 1 in 100 was the yeses. And then learning that the first sale doesn't make a customer, it's the second sale. And, it was the very much school of hard knocks with no budget and no, we used to go to these trade shows, and there's these big fancy trade shows with teams building them, and we had a table. So it was a very much learn and make it work. And then in the same town, there was Bissinger's. And so Bissinger's, since I've been in the candy business my whole life with my family, you knew your competitors and you knew the business. And just like anything, if you're a baker, you know the other bakers. If you're a candy maker, you know the other candy makers. And everyone was kind of the same in a way, but like Bissinger's was up at this different level. And there was mystere behind Bissinger's, and the stores were fancier, and the product was more handmade. And, we all sold products in like a 1 pound box, and Bissinger's sold it differently. Like everything about Bissinger's was so different. And, at like 16, 17 years old, I didn't really get it. I just knew it was fancy. But then as we started to kind of dig into it and learn competition, and just, we would see each other at the same trade shows, and, you got to know the company, we really started to learn the history and learn what they do. So in 2019, when they went for sale, I had sat down with my family and I said, we're kind of at that next stage where we're looking for growth. This is a great opportunity. we are a company that likes to hand make products using premium ingredients. And, we do it slower than most. You go to big factories and you see a lot of automation and things rolling fast. That's not us. And Bissinger's was like the only other candy company around that had that same DNA. The big difference is that Bissinger's history started in 1668 Paris, France, so much different than 1981. And we don't know the true start, but we believe that they probably started 10 or 20 years before that, because in 1668 they were actually awarded the Confesseur Impérial, which is the confectioner to the empire, and it came directly from King Louis XIV. And so from there on, Bissinger's confections were mostly just enjoyed at the Palace of Versailles for quite a long time. It goes from King Louis XIV all the way to Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon, it was 1800. So somehow in this 200-year reign, Bissinger's reigned supreme as the confectioner to the empire. And a lot of customers came from guests of the palace. And unfortunately, we don't have tweets and Facebook posts from the 1700s. Like, we don't know if they also were selling to the public or if they just kind of became, the palace's confections. But it truly was, once a brand reserved for royalty.
That was fascinating. I mean, there's so much to I have so many questions. Okay, so my first question is, what is it like around the Thanksgiving table? I mean, in the family dynamics, your sister's involved. Are your parents still involved?
Parents are still involved. My brother's involved. We always talk shop, and our children and our spouses can't stand it. But there is a giant 3-pound, 10-inch or 12-inch turkey in the middle of the table that all the kids get to break up at the end of the Thanksgiving dinner. So it's a lot of fun. There's always chocolate involved.
I mean, you had me at chocolate. So, and this is such a fun time, y'all, to talk about chocolate because it's Valentine's Day coming up. Is this your busiest time of year?
It's Christmas is the busiest. Christmas is about 40% of the entire portfolio for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's is the most compressed holiday, so that really the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, those 5 days is the most demand in our retail stores. And some of our stores hit 1,000 customers a day per store. And it's mostly fresh dipped chocolate covered strawberries in those last few days, which we're making that morning. So it's a lot of logistics that are involved. Where Christmas is a little bit more spread out through the month of December. So, right now, the calm before the storm is pretty, it's like the stores are beautifully decorated with Valentines, and there's heart boxes everywhere and truffles and assortments. But we're not much busier than a standard Tuesday. But in 10 days from now, it's going to be insane. And that's and it's because guys are last minute. Like, I still haven't bought my wife's stuff. So it's very much a compressed holiday.
That's interesting. So you guys are so nice. Y'all sent me a box of chocolate. So I am so excited. My kids wanted me to open it and eat it immediately. And I was like, no, I'm saving it for today. So, so is this branding, is that the original branding from Bissinger's?
We have the original logo. It's a little bit more scripted. We added kind of an interesting history. What happened was that Bissinger's in 1845 moved to the United States. That's right around the time the French Empire fell. They moved to the United States. It was the candy maker, the Bissinger's family, and they brought the recipe book. And so they kind of had to start over. But we have newspaper clippings and artifacts from the 1800s, right around the time they opened, talking about that they were the famous Bissinger's family that made candy, for the French Empire. So it's unbelievable how much, how viral they went before you could go viral. They landed in Cincinnati, and you have, I don't even know, do they have TV back in 18th? Nothing. It's just newspaper, right? Newspaper and radio. And we have newspaper clippings talking about the famous Bissinger's from France. So they started in Cincinnati, and from that point on, they came to St. Louis in 1927. So back in the 1800s, it was called Bissinger's Fine French Confections. And then in 1927, there were two brothers. The one brother, Carl Bissinger, split from the company to move to St. Louis to open up his own Bissinger's. And so he had to change the name. So that was called Carl Bissinger's French Confections. And then what happened was, I think in the 90s, Bissinger's of St. Louis then bought out Bissinger's of Cincinnati. So there's just now one Bissinger, which is us. So then I would say 2000 and in the 2000s, we kind of cleaned it all up just to Bissinger's handcrafted chocolatier.
I mean, the packaging alone, I mean, just the quality. And I mean, when you open it up and the paper, I mean, these are all things that are so impressive to me. So I guess
Tearing that seal off when you open it, to me, like when I get a box of Biscuits and I'm the one that I just think that's so like
yes,
authenticity, like that quality seal.
yes. I mean, y'all want to see if you're watching. I mean, the chocolates. I mean, look how cute. Actually, one fell out, and that's my fault. But
every single one of those little decorations are placed on my hand.
Are you serious? What?
When people come on a factory tour, they're blown away because there's 100 people in the candy kitchen. All they're doing is hand decorating the pieces or hand placing them on or hand drizzling, and it's just people's like head explodes because they're used to seeing everything else in the world go automated or go through machines. And Bissinger's recipes, the last Bissinger's recipe book we have is from 1899, and even though like right now we're on a new product development phase, but even though we're about to launch something that's brand new, it actually is based off of a recipe that came out of the 1899 recipe book. It's just changing the flavors and changing the ingredients. And then the chocolate itself is still made in Europe and still has the same bean and roast level that actually Carl Bissinger himself developed. So we still, even though it's 2025, we're still operating like an 1800s company or a 1700s company.
So yeah, that was my next question, was just that as you scale larger, and larger, because you guys are selling everywhere. I mean, it's not just brick and mortar. You mentioned, the retailers that you work with outside the Midwest. And so I guess as you scale larger, how are you balancing that and tradition and the quality, craftsmanship?
That's a great question. So in 2012, when we opened up the facility that we're in today, we had basically, if you think of the I Love Lucy style production line where machines are being chocolate poured, we had one small line, and then we added another line a year later. So it's usually a team of 3 to 4 people per production line. Now, what you can do, if you go to you ever got to go see a Snickers factory, the machines are like 10 feet wide, and they're moving at like 10 feet a minute. So that's the belt speed is going, or 20 feet a minute, just some crazy number. So and what we do is we have a maximum width of about just a little bit over a foot. We have 12-inch wide to 16-inch wide machines, and they're only like 30 or 40 feet long. So, 2012, we had one line, and then at the end of 2012, we put the second line in. Today, we have 7 production lines running, and each one has a team of 3 to 4. So line 7 just got installed last November, and then we are building a multi-million-dollar factory expansion. So we're actually under construction right now, and we're doubling the size of our production facility as we speak, which will be finished in about late June or July. And so our whole philosophy is, instead of putting a much bigger line, is just keep adding small production lines. And so it's all of these teams. So it's right now today in the production floor, there's 7 teams, 4 people working on different products. And then there's the packing department, and then there's the candy kitchen. So we just keep adding layers of teams. So it's we keep that consistency of the handmade confections, just like we were doing it decades ago.
I love that. Just keeping the infrastructure, keeping the people, the details as we go into it, such a modern, advanced technology phase, with AI and all the things around technology and modernization, still need people. So, and for that quality assurance. So one thing that I really love about learning about your company is all the innovation. So of course, I saw chocolate first, and then, I'm tunnel vision, but I did see another word that always catches my attention, cocktails. So tell me about the innovation of your chocolate and cocktails.
Well, this is going to be a big boozy year for us. So there's a lot going on with cocktails. We started with a collection called Cocktails at Bissinger's, and this was like a passion project of mine where I love cocktails like, all the spirits out there. I love cocktails the best over wine, over beer, over just straight spirits. And I'm always, in my own personal bar in my house, I have like 9 different styles of bitters and I have different vermouths and different layers. And so I'm always experimenting myself. And I said, how do we bring that into chocolate? Kind of at the same time, we got connected with some really great brands in Kentucky. And so we've been making a lot of spirit confections for them, but just for their gift shops. So we work with Blanton's and we work with Castle and Key right now. And we've been manufacturing products for them, for their own distilleries in Kentucky. And then once we decided to make the first Cocktails at Bissinger's collection, it was kind of like my test, and it went wildly successful. And it was kind of like, why did we wait so long? Who would have thought that chocolate and alcohol wouldn't have been a great seller? And especially with the fun cocktail flavors that we did. So then it's matured into Castle and Key Distillery, which is literally a beautiful castle. It's an old distillery that was reopened a few years ago. It has they've created a gin and a vodka now. So they started with rye and bourbon. So we were doing bourbon balls and bourbon caramels for their rye and bourbon spirits. But we decided together this year to launch a gin and tonic truffle bar with the Castle and Key gin and then the Bissinger's chocolate. And also they would sell it and then we would sell it. So it would be a co-branded collaboration product. And it's been wildly successful. So then in like a short 60 days, we have sold what I thought was a 2 years forecast. So now they have given us permission to create a whole product line with their vodka and with their bourbon that we can bring out into the market as well. So we're doing more innovation on the spirit side than I've ever seen before, which is like it's half passion project to me and then half working with some great, partners.
That's so fun. I mean, just being in food service and working with mixology and, chefs and just seeing how their worlds are colliding. It's really fun to see how chocolate is, and cocktails are colliding. That's super fun. So I guess I have a question in terms of you have something that you have an idea like you did, and then it just goes viral. What do you do as far as because you thought it was a 2-year plan, and it ended up booming. How do you handle that with just keeping up? Do you just say no to orders, or how do you, because one thing, sorry.
Yeah, that's, I have a problem saying no. And it's a curse and a blessing. There's, we always, sometimes like the truck is backing up and we're finishing the order, and we bring the truck driver a couple chocolate bars to sit there for 20 minutes. We really, we have expanded the plant 6 times since we started, so we moved into this facility in 2012 and then started there. Then we added, it's been since 2012 to 2025, tens of millions of dollars in investment from more. We have a second facility down the street to more equipment. And so now with the addition, so every year there's a big thing that happens to handle the growth. In 2012, we put the I Love Lucy style chocolate production line was about $150,000. And now they're about $350,000 for the same exact machine. So costs have gone up. So the expansion is becoming a lot more expensive. However, we believe that, that's the old adage, if you build it, they will come. So had we stayed at the same size as we are today in 2012, we would have been saying no to 60% of our 70% of our customers. But I just believe that, we have this model to keep growing. It's expensive, but, one day we'll probably be at a point where we're like, okay, I think the infrastructure is caught up to where we need to be. But, my brother, sister, and I, we feel young. We're not as young as we used to be, but we feel young and we have a lot of energy. And so there's a lot of times where we're going in and working weekends and we're working Saturdays or early nights. You talk today, late nights and early mornings to get orders done. And we have to get creative and kind of juggle the schedule. But, we love what we're doing so much. I hate saying no. So we just try to make it work.
I get that. It is so hard to say no. And one thing you said earlier really resonated with me it's not the first order, and it's the second order, and making sure you can fulfill that second order. And so that's really good advice. I remember my stepdad told me with buying a house, keep on updating, because you don't ever want to get to a point where you want to sell. And then, your house is 15 years old and you've done nothing to it. And, it catches up with you. And if you want growth, if you want, big sales, you have to invest. And for me and my company, that's what we've done. And it's been great. So we can handle what comes, down the road. So, as one thing you also mentioned earlier was they didn't have social media. So I was checking out some of your reels and TikToks. So how are you guys embracing social media with your company?
That's such a great question. In that the concept changes every once in a while. Sometimes what we like to do, I would say the before was position products on social media to the season. So focus on like our heart boxes. But we really have gone to a couple different channels now is when we're working with more influencers to really try to, tell the story of more who we are and get the brand out there, because not only just to, like Bissingers and chocolate does not need to be for the older generation. Like what we're seeing is that like, for example, the decorated mints that you saw, that you have that in that box. I'll anecdotally say this. 10 years ago, the hand decorated mints were what your grandma bought, and it was for like the 60 and up crowd. That's what they were made for. They are coming, the hand decorated mints and the hand decorated cookies are like a millennial thing now. Like it's it's skipped a generation, like skip the baby boomers, but now, which we actually jokingly, we had a lot of baby boomers that buy it, but it went from grandmas. And I think because they would buy it for their grandkids, and now their grandkids are, buying Bissingers now, and that's what they're coming in. They're buying hand decorated mints and cookies. And it was like, so we're engaged in telling that story. The other thing we really like to use for social media, and we're trying to get better at it, is show the craft of the product. So kind of those focused, we right now, one of the products for Valentine's Day is our salted caramel hearts. And so it's, you take that Bissinger's caramel that goes back to, hundreds of years, that was literally the same caramel recipe served at the Palace of Versailles. We formed them into the hearts, into the shape of a heart instead of a square, and then, enrobe it in milk chocolate. But the pink salt that goes on top is hand sprinkled. Every single one in a row that goes down. So we had a shot the other day just focusing on that, because I think that the people can appreciate consuming the product so much more when they see that. And I think the factory tours that we give, when we give them for free, because to us it's so important for the consumer to see that. And so we're trying to use kind of like that angle for social media. So a lot of close-ups of how we're decorating and crafting and packing and making the product.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I mean, I get the opportunity to go to different factories and see how things are made, and it is just fascinating. And so, TikTok and all the social platforms are just changing everything. I love that you're embracing influencers. So you just really have, no pun intended, like the recipe for success that I think, can help myself as, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. And, for people out there that have, new entrepreneurs and people that are like, hey, I've got to catch up, I've got to engage, and with the change and get involved. So I have really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better and your business. And again, I love chocolate. And I think everybody should go out and buy Bissinger's chocolate. We will link this, and don't wait too late. Order your chocolate now for your sweetie. But while I eat this chocolate, I'm just curious. I can't let you go without telling us a confession.
I have a confession, and so the number one product that we make globally between both our brands is salted caramels, and it is my least favorite product. So I absolutely love our caramels, but I would just prefer to have, and we do put salt in the caramel too. But I always, if I get a sea salt caramel, I brush the salt off, And and I prefer the classic vanilla caramel, but sea salt caramel's number one thing we make, and it's my least favorite thing. But I love like salty foods. Like I love salt on my French fries, so it's the weirdest thing ever.
You just don't mix. And that's okay. I mean, that's what probably encourages you to innovate and, make different things. So, well, thank you so much for joining me. I've really, really enjoyed our discussion. Again, we will put the link to where everyone can order these chocolates. And even if it's past Valentine's that you're listening to it, that's okay. Surprise a friend one day with some chocolates from Bissinger. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
For more inspiration, follow our social media at W3Sales. Please like, comment, and subscribe. All the things. We would love to connect with you.